Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, that was a big yes. Okay, so three public announcements up ahead. First off, I only have half an hour left, so it's a sort of a good news, bad news. So the good news is I only have half an hour left. The bad news is that means I'll speak a bit faster. So stop me if I'm going too fast. Second public announcement, I made a terrible mistake at lunch and I took Sprite. Yeah, which you know has bubbles. So if any of those bubbles decide to, you know, team up and come back, I apologize. I'm guessing the microphone will not help with that. And the third public announcement is I'm going to start. So VLOOKUP Dashboard is the title of my presentation. It's well, it's not really saying what I'll be doing, but I'll explain that in a moment. But before I do that, so my name is Gašper Kamenšek. I come from Slovenia, the only country that has love in it, sort of, in the name. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and well, that's about everything you need to know. Or actually, what I could also say is the population of this room right now represents 1% of the entire population of my country. So yeah, I'm thinking kudos goes to Boriana for this. And I don't think you've actually given her a round of applause for bringing such great people here. And Boriana and Boris, I don't know where Boris went, but yeah, so, okay, well, anyway, let's go. So this was sort of the introduction into my presentation. I know it doesn't say much. I wish John Peltier was here because he loves pie charts. That was a joke. But anyway, so the first presentation I was gonna do before sort of being hit by a car of deciding for this, I was gonna do live data streaming into Power BI, which I'm guessing you would all love. But then something happened. About 3 months ago, I had a course, and I realized that people, particularly people like MVPs here, have sort of lost track of reality in Excel. Sort of lost track of reality in a sense that in Excel 2007, when it came out, the biggest thing that was, the biggest thing at that point was tables. So at that point, we were all saying, you've got to use tables. It's the way to make your Excel dynamic. It's the only way to go. And the problem being, when 2010 came out, we started saying, you got to use Power Pivot, because that's the best thing in Excel ever. And then 2013 came out, and we all started saying, you know, Power Query, that's the best thing in Excel. You got to start using it. And yeah, sure. I know why you're so happy, but the problem being that when Ken asked you today, how many of you are using Power Query? I didn't actually see how many hands went up, but put them up again. Okay, so it's a big percentage. Thank you, Guy. Yeah, okay, still not enough. I get it, but what Ken did before is he said, I'll take a few Excel files, I'll take a few TXT files or whatever, and I'll just, you know, put them together. But the problem is, 3 months ago, I had a course, and I realized people still don't use tables in Excel. So we're actually in 2007 still, whereas we sort of went berserk on it. And so that's what I got here. So Excel versus modern Excel, where modern Excel should be Power Query, Power Pivot. So using everything that Excel 2016 represents or actually has in it. And the fact is, only 5% of people are using that. I'm thinking the percentage was actually bigger here, so applause to you, but reality is somewhere here. And this got me to thinking, if this is true, then I can come here and I can talk to you about Power BI and live data streaming and live data refresh and all that. But it actually, I'm not going to have an impact until you start using tables. But I'm not going to talk about tables here. But what I will talk about is, I'm going to talk about Power Query, but I'm going to talk about Power Query in a different way. So I'm going to start with something you all know. You all know VLOOKUP. So we all know Excel, we all know VLOOKUP and why it's used and stuff like that. So what I'm going to try to do is say, okay, so you got something you're doing in Excel. If you got Excel 2010, 2013, or 2016, you got Power Query. This is how you could have been doing that now. Okay, so, okay, well, that was going to be a secret. Power Query, just a few quick pointers. So it came out as Data Explorer. It was only named Data Explorer for 3 months, so don't look it up under that name. Then it became Power Query. It's been Power Query ever since, actually. But in 2016, it actually became something like this. So in 2016, when you look at Excel, you have this. So it's Get and Transform. This is the group that actually houses Power Query. And this is where a bit of confusion arises, because what are we talking about? Are we talking about Power Query, or are we talking about Get and Transform? And I think Guy had a lovely slide where he said, well, Get and Transform is only a box that uses Power Query engine. Or something like that. I don't know if I said it correctly, but thank you. Okay, so the things that I'll be talking about, if you want to look them up online, use Power Query as a search term. Just a suggestion. You can use Get and Transform, and you'll add to the 1% that does that. Okay, but now I'll just do a bit of demo just to show you what I'll be talking about. So, VLOOKUP Dashboard should be something like this, but at this point I have no table, so I'm just going to create a few on the fly. So I'll have ID, which will go something from 1 to, let's say we'll go up to 30, and then I'll have month, and let's say I'll have value 1. Month will be January, and value 1 will be just a rand between 1 and 1000. I'm not pretty sure how you're writing functions. The separator for arguments in Slovenia is a semicolon. It's the same? Okay, because the Americans, they're strange. They're using commas. I don't know what that's about. Well, anyway, so you'll understand what I'm doing all the time. Okay, so this will be my basic table. And I just call this one, well, let's call it mother, like this. Okay, so this is my mother table. And I'll do another table. And I'll have ID. And I'll have month. Oh, that just went terribly wrong there. Let's do that. So I'll have ID, I'll have month, and I'll have, well, that went terribly wrong also. And I'll have value 2. ID should go from, so I won't have the same set of data. ID should go from 1 to, let's say, 27. Like this, and this will be another rand between. Like this, so. Okay, what's the shortcut for creating tables in Excel? Control T, yeah, great. Okay, what's the shortcut for creating charts? For creating charts in Excel, what's the shortcut for that? It's Alt F1, you should know that one. Shame on you. We've been talking about that in 2003. Doesn't matter, it was before tables, so it doesn't really count. Okay, anyways, so now I'll do a bit of, I'll do a bit of what happens when we're getting data. So I'll have a few duplicate rows, like this, and then a few data will just be missing. Nobody knows what happened to that. A few duplicate rows there. Let's just do that. And then we'll have a few missing there also. Let's just do that. Okay, so this is my mother table, and this, well, if I'm going to name it like that, it will be a problem, right? So it will not be a father table. You know, the problem is because I'm the only one being heard, so nobody knows it was your idea. Okay, this will be a lookup table, the way it should be. Okay, so the normal lookup at this point would go something like, I'll write a lookup here, and it will look at this one, and the ones that wouldn't be found would be an error, right? DNA, no value, or whatever. And the way you would know that you've got data here that isn't represented there is you would count those errors and count how many of those you've got. But we're going to do things a bit differently here. So what we're going to look for are first just a few columns that have nothing to do with VLOOKUP, are actually just, let's check our data. Let's check how many duplicates we have. And let's check how many number of unique values we have. And from that, we're going to go how many values were found and how many values were not found. So how many values are here but not there, something like that. Now, this could all be done with Excel. There would be a lot of countifs and things like that, so that would be hilarious. But we're just going to go with Power Query for this. So the first thing I'm going to do is do this. I'm going to say, use this table. Oh, did anyone notice I'm on an autosave? Oh, you should have told me that. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to say, get data from this table. So I'll get a query that will be the mother query. So this one is called mother. And I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to say, OK, I want to use that data. So create a connection to that. And then I'll do a bit of analysis on this. So the first thing I want to use, I'll actually find out, is how many duplicates do I have and how many number of uniques do I have. Now what I'll do is, I'll do a reference of this. And then I'll do this. I'll say, OK, well, the first thing I want you to do is to count the number of IDs that I have. And that is 30 at this point. And I'll just rename this. And I'll say, well, that is my before. And then I'll say, insert a new step. And this step should only be go back to the source. And then remove all duplicates on this column. And now, well, now just repeat what I did before. Count values. At this point, there's only 28, right? So, because I removed duplicates. And this will be called after. And now, there's only one thing left. So now, I'll do the before minus after. And I'll close and load this. And this one I will load. I'll load it into the existing worksheet and I'll start here. So this is the number of duplicates that I have in my first table. Now I'll repeat the same from the second one. So this time you got to learn it. The first time you just saw it, this time you got to learn it. So first thing I did is data from table arrange. This one is called no, it's not called father, it's called lookup. And now I'll do, okay, did something wrong there. Load to, oh. Does anyone know what the best way, if you did a load of data, so now it loaded into a table on a new worksheet, how do I change this into connection only? Does anyone know this? Because it's a tricky thing. I mean, it's a trick, that's what it is. Yeah, okay, you could go load to, but you can only do, you could also do this. Just delete this sheet. And if you do that, it will say, well, now it's connection only, because I'm not loading anywhere. So it's, yeah, that one was working. Okay, I learned that from Frederick, actually, in Amsterdam. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, now reference this. And I'll do this. The first thing I want you to do is to count the number of values right now. We're going to rename that into before. Then I'll go back to my source. And then I'll remove duplicates. And I'll do the count again. Like this. I'll rename this after. And then it's happy ever after again. So it's before minus after. Something like this. And now it's time to close and load. And this one will go into existing worksheet here like this. Okay. So these are the duplicate values. Now, the number of uniques would actually be a far easier thing to do. It would only be, I'll reference mother again. So do another reference. And at this point, just do this. Remove duplicates. And then count how many are remaining. Like this. So close and load to. Let's do existing here like this. Okay, it will be the same with this one, but now we get to the interesting stuff. So now, I want to check how many values here would be found there. So if I did a VLOOKUP, what I would actually be interested in at this point is how many values here are not returning me mistakes from that one, or actually errors. And I will be doing this, well, I'll just do one more thing, because it's, let's say, correct to do. The first thing I'll do is I'll actually make it so that these two will be without duplicates when I'm searching for VLOOKUP, because duplicates actually make no sense in that. So what I'll do is I'll just reference this one again, and I'll call this true mother. And the only thing that true mother will have differently than the mother is it will have no duplicates. This will be just a connection at this point. And then I'll do a true lookup. So the same thing, reference it. I'll call it true lookup. And do the same thing, so just remove duplicates here. Okay. And create a connection. Now at this point I wish my resolution was better, but it is what it is. Okay, now at this point, this is where we're starting the lookup. So this is where VLOOKUP starts. It's Power Query VLOOKUP. And Power Query VLOOKUP is actually just this. Bless you. So it's get data, combine queries, merge. And what it actually comes down to, it comes down to joins. Now joins, the ones that come from the SQL world are smiling now because they know what they can do. And these actually do bring quite a bit of magic to the whole lookup thing, because over here you have anti-joins. Now I don't know if you know what anti-joins are, but these are the ones that allow you to only get what one table has but the other one doesn't have, which VLOOKUP never did. VLOOKUP just said, okay, I'll go look this here, and if I'll find it, I'll print it. If I don't, I'll just create an error. So we'll show this in a moment, but first let's do this live. So we have the true mother, we have the true lookup, and now we'll say data, get data, combine queries, and merge. Now there's quite a bit of magic here in this simple free drop downs. The first one would say which is the first table, which is the left table, and the second one would say which is the right table. So the table on the right. This is a bit of a, well, it's not exactly what we're used to in the lookup world as far as terms go, because we're used to, we have a lookup table and we have the, oh, actually we have the main table and we have a lookup table. And over here, you have the left table and you have the right table. And the reason they're called, well, there must be different reasons, but one of them is the joins actually always start with left, right. So you know which one is the main table of that join. Well, anyways, the way this starts is you pick your queries that you're working from. So true mother, true lookup. And now I can say, okay, here's ID, here's ID. And what this does, and it's a sad thing that you can't see it, but at the bottom, did you see it for a moment? Ah. Okay, well, this is a bummer. Ken, solutions? Right. No, I'll actually do this and see what happens. Because it should run away, but it's not running away. Why are you not running away? Lock, unlock. Well, that's a bummer. Okay. But you saw it, right? You can see it now, as far as I'm holding it. So it tells you how many values it was able to match. But now, here's the true magic of this. VLOOKUP could have done the same thing, well, almost the same thing. You would have to count errors and count how many you got, but you can do this in Power Query. You can say, well, match these two, but match them by these two columns. So you can match by more things, and that is, as far as Excel goes, well, now that's just great. Don't know what happened there. Okay, Power Query did not do that. It was probably me, but I'm not taking responsibility for that. Okay, do you see it? It's still saying, okay, I was able to match on 2 columns, and that is brilliance in itself. But the real brilliance here comes from this. Okay, so you're able to match this. Now I have to pick the type of match I wanted. So, or actually the type of join I wanted, or the type of merge. The first one would be left outer, and that is your VLOOKUP. That is, keep the left table and bring things from the right table to the left table, or actually just make them adjacent columns. But the magic here are not these. The magic here are these anti-joins. So anti-joins do something like this. Do an anti-join of this. So I have a left table, I have a right table, and now you're gonna enjoy me clicking OK, because I don't know if I can. So if this doesn't go up, how do I get down? Huh? Yeah, I did. Doesn't work. Yeah, until you get there, right? Okay, well, this will be fun. I'm guessing it's there. Oh, okay. That also deserves an applause. Okay. So do you see what it did? It only brought a few values on. So it didn't do the entire table in lookup. Now what did I get? Well, what I got was, these are the values that are in the first table, but are not in the right table. Or are in the left table and not on the right. And I could actually prove that if I bring in data from true lookup, and it'll be all nulls. So there's no data in true lookup for these values. Now I can just remove these columns. Okay, but here is something you can't do with VLOOKUP. Now I'll load this, and I'll load this. Let's load this here, like this. And this is the data that is here, but is not here. Okay, so this is magic in itself, or should be. I can see what you were talking about, Ken, now. You can't work with this room, right? But whereas this is brilliant, the brilliance in this comes from refresh. And I know you heard that today, once before. And I'll just do this. I'll say, well, let's make another one. Let's make 12, and let's make 13. And let's just make up some data for it, like this. And now, let's do a refresh of this. And now there's only 3. So this is pure brilliance. Oh yeah. Okay, that's good, because I'm almost done. Okay, but now, where this really shines and why this actually should overtake VLOOKUP in a way is because we sort of live in a time of big data. And did anybody wonder when Ken was doing his stuff and he said, I'm going to spin all these Excels and I'm going to load them somewhere, why didn't he load them in Excel? Did anyone wonder at that point? Because we love Excel. Why wouldn't we load it in Excel? I know you all wondered. Well, he actually created a table, so it would be legit. The data would be legit. Whether he would load it, it would be legit. But it would take, oh, I'm guessing you said big space. Okay, okay. Yeah, it would take a lot of, okay. So the file would get big. And Excel actually, with big data, Excel is not your go-to tool. And the reason it's not your go-to tool is because Excel has, well, let's say theoretically, Excel has like 1,048,567 rows. But practically, Excel has a bit less rows to work with when you're doing formulas. And I'll show you this on a different example. And this, well, that's just brilliant. Cancel. Yeah. Okay. And the example will go something like this. Bulgaria, testing. Oh, you can see their mothers all around. But, okay, well, actually, I love this mother. This is a mother workbook. Look at the size of it. So, This is a big mother, right? And a problem with a big mother is, well, okay, I'll just say a problem with a workbook that is this big is what? Well, first off, if you kick it off, and I'm pretty sure I pressed enter, but I'll just check. Yeah, it's way different. Huh. Okay. And now, you do what? Yeah, wait or go for coffee, something of that. Okay. That's actually me pressing enter and then double clicking again. But still the mother did not appear, so we'll just wait for the mother to appear. It's a big mother, so we should see her from the far. Let's go. Oh, we are recording all this, right? My mother will disown me after this. Doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, I'll just press OK, because I'm not. So at the bottom, you're seeing this data being loaded into Excel, and that's not a good thing. But it's not just that it's loading so much time, or the loading is so slow. What's the other painstaking thing? Calculations, right? So you do a formula, and then you can go for coffee, and, well, you can do everything you want because this will never happen. So basically, what we have here is we have a mother workbook and we have a lookup workbook. And you can see that they're both quite big. Now, the magic in Power Query, and I'll just close this down because it was just, oh, well, I'll try to close it down. You can look at this chart in Excel in the meantime. It's a great chart. I did that before because somebody was asking me, okay, so I should have started way differently. Back at home, I got a son that is 2 months old. It's my first child. And you know how people tell you when something happens, it will be terrible and things like that, and you go, yeah, that was you, you know. I'm going to do it differently. Well, the first thing that did happen is someone told you, you know, get some sleep now because afterwards, yeah, I can see you nodding. But if you're nodding, I heard that in Bulgaria means no, so I'm a bit confused, but okay. So this is my sleeping pattern before. Okay, there's a bit of gaps in between. I'm getting old, I guess. I'm not even going to explain those, but here's my sleeping pattern after. And I'm thinking, you know when they say that a chart says 1,000 words, right? So if somebody will ask me, what will it be when I get a baby? I'll just say, check this out. No words necessary. Well, anyway, here's our mother. So this is the mother workbook, and I will not go through it, but it's a big, big thing. So this one has like, yeah, almost 1 million rows. And that is a lookup that is similar to this. And then I'll do this. So I'll start with a blank workbook, and then I'll actually ask you a question, because if I start doing this, we'll go a bit over. We'll go like 3 minutes over. So are you okay with that, or am I going to get killed? Okay. Because I've seen how you drive, and I'm scared. Okay. So I'll do this. I'll say get data, and this time I'll get it from a different workbook. So this workbook is in Bulgaria. Oh, let's just try this. Let's try it locally. I think this should be better. So this is the mother workbook. I'll say import. Okay, so let's do a mother table. Now I could have edited this, but no need. I'll just say loads to. And I'll only create connection. So okay. And I'll go and fetch the other data. So I'll say get from workbook, get from the lookup. It was also a big one, a bit smaller than the mother, but still a big table. So that's my dimension, or whatever you want to call it. I'll load that too. And I'll say only create connection. So at this point, I have a blank workbook, but actually I can work with both of those files in this workbook. And now I'll just say, okay, get data, combine queries, merge, get the mother, get the dimension. Well, I'm glad that this column is called oh my god, because I wish I would have edited now. Doesn't matter. Oh, and now I have the same thing as before. Okay, so ID, lookup ID, well, lookup column, lookup ID. And at this point, well, I hope my hand doesn't get tired. So you should be looking at, well, you shouldn't be looking at this. Well, I'm going to go with the default answer on that. It was 3 minutes in my hotel room. Yeah. Okay. So it matched, well, not that much, but it did match some things. And now I can repeat what I did before, so I can say this again, and then Control, tab, tab, tab. Okay. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll just bring in something from the dimension table. Let's say I'll bring in days, like this. And of course, I'll delete the oh my god. Huh? Anytime now, anytime now. Okay, I'm just glad you're not smelling coffee yet, because that's when I'll start losing people. Or something else. Okay, so oh my god should go out. At this point, I can do a close and load. And where would I load this data? Yeah. Definitely add to data model and only create connection, because it's 900,000 rows, and if I load it into Excel, I'll sort of have the same problems that I did with my mother, or actually with this mother, maybe with my mother. So what you just saw me was do a VLOOKUP, but do a VLOOKUP without ever writing VLOOKUP. And to be frank, the oh my god column was actually VLOOKUP. And the reason it was returning errors, and I didn't even speak about that, but if you have two separate workbooks and you try to do VLOOKUP from one to the other, you have a big problem, because first off, this one has to be opened to even work. Second off, it has to be open in the same instance as this one so you can reference it. And third off, if this one is closed, this one will only return errors. So you got nothing. Whereas this will obviously give me something anytime soon. And meanwhile, I'll say, any questions? And don't you all speak at once now? No questions? Oh, okay, let's be. Yeah, ladies first. Eh? Oh, yeah. Well, actually, they're in love, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so it's actually a question to Guy.
I'm sorry, Guy. I didn't mean to do this. Could you repeat the question? Okay, so the question is, what happens to Access now that Excel can do, a bunch of data? I'm guessing you'll have a private conversation about that. Well, tell you the truth, Access got about 3 new things in latest versions, and Excel got like 200. But for Excel to take over from Access, Excel was never meant to house, you know, big amount of data, whereas Access did. But Access was originally designed so you don't have to have your servers and stuff, but you can still have a database for small applications or for stuff like that. But I'm guessing Guy will have a totally different answer for you. Okay. Any other questions? Oh. Okay, the batteries went dead.
No, okay. Could you please save the file to see how big is it?
Okay.
Okay, so now I just want to see the new size of.
Okay, so this is data from the mother. This is data from the dimensions or from the lookup. These were only connections, and this merge was actually loaded into Power Pivot. Okay, so now I'll save this. Yeah, right. No. Oh. Something went terribly wrong. Okay. That seems to happen a lot today. Well, how should we name this? Let's call it Eternal Happiness. And now let's see what happens if this truly is eternal happiness. So this is in documents, and we're looking for eternal happiness. And it's yay big. But if you saw the size of the mother and if you saw the size of lookup.
Yeah.
But the reason you can have data models that are 2 gigs big, because it doesn't matter because it loads them into RAM and just works in, it's not the same as if having an Excel file that is that big. Because I have no data in Excel and no refresh in Excel. So there is a huge difference between these two. Okay. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Oh. Yeah. Okay, thank you.